Hello, welcome to Mystic Revolution. Susana and I are so grateful that you're here. And today we're going to be delving even more into the great work that we've been talking about the last two shows. So stay tuned for that as we start with a meditation. So let's just notice that we have a body, feel your skin. Notice your breath. Let yourself have plenty of air flowing through. And notice your weight in the chair. Really just relax the body and let the chair do the work. All the striving we do, all the struggling, all the trying, all the helping, let's just let go and let the chair support you. And let the floor support your chair. We don't have to worry about it. Just let go. And the floor is supported by the foundation of wherever you are. Let go. Then layer after layer of earth is happening. Gravity's drawing us in all the way to the heart of the earth. So gravity all the way to the heart of the earth like a hug. The earth is hugging us. We're supported. We're stable. We're pulled in. Just relax and be resting with the earth, with your body, and let your soul relax and rest on the earth, open to the universe. We'd love for you to just stay in this meditative consciousness if you can, if you're just sitting in a comfortable, safe place, and let what we talk about flow over you so you can enjoy what works for you and just let what doesn't just flow along. If you'd like to, you can start to open your eyes or just stay quietly closed. But we're starting to come out of meditation. Hey, Susana.
Hi, how are you?
Very, very awesome. So I'd love you to just jump into today. We're going to dive into the later part of the stages that we've been talking about.
Sure. So for those who are just joining us, we've been talking about the alchemical process. And we decided we wanted to talk about this because a lot of people, healers, etc., talk about alchemy, right? And the idea of transformation. And there is actually it actually relates to, right, ancient practices, a philosophy, a framework, and I want to just put out the caveat. I'm speaking to it pretty simplistically here, and that's why we're going to provide some links for you to dive a little bit deeper if you want to explore more. But from a pretty straightforward perspective, we can look at this alchemical process. And when I say alchemical process, it really is a framework for looking at our own evolution coming into wholeness. And it takes that and breaks it down into 4 phases. Now you will find there are other frameworks that have a few more of these phases, but I like the 4 phases because they're pretty straightforward. And it also, along with just our own self-evolution process, it also relates to the idea that an alchemist could create gold out of a base metal, and the process that base metal would go through to create gold, right, which is a metaphor for our own evolution and vice versa, if you will. So we talked about the first 2 stages last time, which were Nigredo and Albedo, and essentially Nigredo represents shadow. It is the dark parts, and it is the I'm just going to say annihilation of self. Think of any instance in your life where you felt like everything was crumbling down. You were at the rock bottom, like nothing left. That would be Nigredo.
Mhm.
And when we are in their deepest shadows, right, even if we feel like we're caught or we don't know how to get out, we're in that stage. And if we can just be with that, something will shift. And this is the difference. We're going to talk a little bit about not getting stuck and how we can use what we experience in each situation to continue the cycle. But the idea is if you can remember that if even in these darkest deep places, like it can be temporary, um, then you'll fulfill that particular part of the cycle and you can come into the next phase, which is albedo, and it's known as the whitening in terms of like white snow, like moon, soul. These are some of the things that are associated with pure spirit, and the pure essence of that coming out of the ashes, the pure essence. So often we think of go right from the ashes and the phoenix rising. Well, this is really the process of that, and we're going to talk about the phoenix in a little bit. But before we get there, how does it get there? So there's the pure essence comes out.
Mhm.
Now the next section is called Citrinitas, and it's known by alchemists as a yellowing, and it's kind of the idea of dawn, like the dawning of a new light. It's where the pureness of spirit, right, becomes activated in you, the
Yeah.
true essence of what maybe you've just been through, like the true of it, which includes higher perspective, all of these things. It starts to uh, become embodied and actualized in your physical body, and it's not always easy. I mean, I'm sure everybody who's watching this knows, right? Like, even if you gain a huge amount of insight or you know something intellectually or like, oh, an aha moment, bringing it into your daily life, like allowing it to come into your body, heart, mind, body, soul, um, in a way that is lasting,
Mhm.
in a way that is transformative, can be really freaking hard.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. In fact, sometimes even harder than just, you know, the destruction of like, let's burn it down or let's just totally let it go. And what are we
Yes.
left with? Moving through that then though, when that happens, then we come to Rubedo, which is the final stage of the cycle. And remember, it's a cycle. We're going to do it again.
Mhm. Amen.
Which is where the famous symbol of the phoenix rising. The phoenix is associated with the phoenix, the sun rising, right? This phoenix and sun are symbiotic in this, and it's where all the parts of us really, really come together. In fact, there's a symbology or a metaphor of the great marriage, which is a marriage or a unification that happens within you, right? Of
Mhm.
all the parts and pieces, all the things that are highly active and more receptive, things that maybe you know, got activated or enlivened through the stages that you've been before, bringing you into wholeness, into full beingness.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this cycle, right? We all have our own great work of our whole life.
Yes.
And we have great works around particular things, like relationships or the creative process, or, I mean, there's so many things that you can use this framework to kind of understand where you are, what's going on, what are all these feelings about, or why are all these things happening? And I just find it's really interesting. And because there is so much history and symbology and, I'm going to say, hidden information. It's not really, I mean, there is hidden information, of course, but I mean, if you explore it, I mean, you'll find so much information. It goes back, it has threads to different cultures. It has threads out to all of the major religions. But this idea, this is something that we all do. We all do. And if we're aware of it, we can actually do it with more intention.
Yeah. So I just want to call out a couple things I noticed, and one of them is you talked about like not getting stuck. So each of these stages have their challenges. It's not all pretty and la la la.
No.
And meanwhile, can we just keep in flow? Can we not be stuck? Just seems like an important thread to talk about. And some of us go through faster or slower, depending on, which thing it is. Maybe I can go faster with relationships and slower with career or whatever. But
Yeah.
just noticing the flow of it and that things are constantly changing and
Yeah.
the landscape is changing as we drive along the road.
The landscape is changing as we drive along the road, right? And this circles back then to the topic of mastering your energy, because your awareness of energy, how you perceive things, right? All the stuff, your beliefs, all the stuff that we know can either keep us entrapped or can open us up and catapult us to the next level. I mean, all of those things come to play here. So, for instance, I've I'll just speak to my various stages of stuckness
Please.
in these, right? So for Nigredo, I mean, I have had, like a lot of people, some very, very dark times. And I'm not going to look back and judge and say, well, I stayed there too long. I was too concerned with death or with um the horrors of everything or whatever, because that was my Nigredo for that particular time in my life, and I've certainly
Yeah.
had them for other times. That said, I know I'm going to go through it again with something else. And so having this knowingness that it is a stage, that I've been through it before with other things, puts me in a different place. And the knowingness that it is temporary and that I have tools now that will validate where I am, and in that validation, make the cycle move.
Yes. Yes. I really want to speak here because there's so many systems that talk about the cycles that we go through in our soul, evolution, revolution,
Mhm.
that people say similar things, and I find similar things that just knowing that it's a stage, it's not forever.
Right.
It's just a stage, Oh boy, I had trouble with third grade. I couldn't remember my multiplication. I really honestly didn't know my multiplication tables till I was in my first year of college of engineering because I used it every day, right? I
Mhm.
just didn't know them. I
Mhm.
couldn't get it. And then
Mhm.
I got it. And now it's gone again. you know, I don't use it every day.
Well,
So
because you don't use
I
it,
have to do the
right?
little like 7 plus, you know, but like I couldn't get it. But it's
Mhm.
just third grade and I made it through and then I went on and then
Yeah.
eventually I got it in college, and it's okay. Like I don't have to stay forever and on the rack of multiplication tables.
Yes.
It's just very important to understand this.
Yeah.
And then also, can I just be with it? And because that's the secret. If I once I can really be with wherever I am, whatever's going on, then some people like to say acceptance produces change. Like things move
Hmm.
once I stop resisting
Right.
that
Once
they
you stop
are.
resisting and you just let it be and be in it. And that can be tricky, particularly with Nigredo, because let's be honest, it's awful. I mean, it's awful.
It's awful.
It's awful.
It's
Who
awful.
wants to be there?
Right.
But it's right when you validate the awfulness, when you validate your experience, when you look around, and this is what I do with people, I will, when there is a lot of shadow, we go in and we go in
Yeah.
and we sit with it
Mm-hmm.
together and we look at it. I know you do this too.
Yeah.
And we get more information
Mm-hmm.
and we allow ourselves to let the parts of ourselves that need to die die,
Mm-hmm.
or the relationships die, or the things, the beliefs, the
Mm-hmm.
the energy, just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say just let it go, I know it's not that easy, but I mean, just, you know what I'm saying. We're
Yeah,
letting it
but it
all
is the
go.
thing.
It is
Mm-hmm.
the thing. And then that creates the movement and then the opening. It's and then the opening to the next phase of albedo and the purity and the whitening. Now I'm going to say I've been stuck there too,
Oh God.
because it feels a lot better, but it's a little bit like kind of being out of your body. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of up in this, and no one's really driving the body. Um, and there's a lot of insights, a lot of cool stuff that can come, and you just shed a lot. It feels lighter, it feels better, and that's not. It can be, you can get stuck there, and then if you don't tend to it, you get filled up again with crap, and you can go back down into not complete the cycle, I'll just say,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
what I want to say about this is that it takes discernment what to let go. Because for me, like sometimes what I learned in the most gnarly is the letting go is letting go of my judgment, letting go of my resistance,
mhm,
letting go of my it shouldn't be this way for me or them or anyone. It should not be this way.
yeah.
And that was it was so much the water that I was swimming in
Mhm.
that I couldn't see it. And then once finally there's just this moment of grace. It was just like I can just allow this this stuff that hasn't been acceptable. I can just be with it. I'm not saying it's great or it's bad. My judgment dropped.
Right.
And that's when I could go through and I could be just integrated in all those experiences, which are horrific. But
Yeah.
but that's how it was. And then I could open to the light, the albedo. But
Yeah.
before that, I just kept getting stuck and stuck and stuck.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, like, noticing what is there to let go of. It's like what I want to let go of, what I want to eschew is the bad behavior, is the violence, is the horror. I want to let go of that. But what I recognized is like that's what to not resist.
Yeah. Yeah. And of
Um,
course, we don't wanna put ourselves in the way of violence or horror or whatever. It's that understanding that the damage or the woundedness of that in ourselves, we don't have to let that drive us anymore.
Right. It's not
Yeah.
happening now, and I don't have to suffer over it.
Yeah. I don't have to suffer. And this puts you then into a state of more of being able to be here now with.
Yes.
And we talked a little bit about triggers last time. I mean, understanding this process, I think, is a really great way to heal and move through triggers. I don't have to make, if I've had abuse in my background, just but because I encounter you getting angry at me doesn't mean all of that stuff has to come up again and torture me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And be in that PTSD, be in that cycle that reestablishes itself within us,
Yeah.
causing us and the people around us a lot of disturbance.
A lot of disturbance.
And
Yeah.
it's not like we're saying it didn't happen and we're just, this is a way to get free
Yes.
so that it becomes something that happened, not that something that's always happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the tools that we're talking about help facilitate that. Therapy helps facilitate that, right? This is a framework that we kind of go through as a default anyway,
Yeah.
but you can be more intentional about it. And I found move through the cycle a little bit more quickly.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
found if we learn from each other's successes and failures, it helps to inform us
Yes.
we're in a similar situation. Just like watching sports tapes, after, oh, I see how that was done. I could do it differently next time.
Yeah.
And I actually have. We've talked about this, but like I've learned that I don't have to suffer. When I'm suffering, what is there? What am I hooked on? It's just
Exactly.
this default question instead of just being like, oh, I'm suffering and that's how it is.
Yeah.
It's a big difference.
It's a big difference. And that word I love so much, unhook.
Unhook.
That
Yes.
it was such a moment when I realized I could unhook myself.
Yes.
I could unhook myself from that.
Yes.
Mind
Yeah.
blowing and
It's
life
mind blowing.
changing,
It's life
right?
changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we're on our way to break, but I just want to say if y'all, while, during the break, if you want to be noticing, like, where are the hooks? Where is the suffering? Where do I want to get free? Because from my perspective, the conversations we have are like to show what's possible.
Yeah.
And so there's so much hope. So let's go to break and we'll be back soon.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hey friends, Susana and I want to remind you that we offer a Mystic Revolution meditation. It's the first Tuesdays at 4:30 Pacific. Please come as our guest. You can see our website for the link. And thank you for playing with us.
Raise your vibration and energize your life with specialized Fibonacci tuning forks that deepen meditations and empower self-healing. Get your vibrational sound tools for personal enhancement at energybodytuners.com.
Welcome back to Mystic Revolution. And Susana has been sharing with us about the great work, and we're really looking forward to talking about the finale here about the Phoenix Rising. So let's just love to hear this, Susana.
Yeah. Well, the idea of the phoenix, of rising from the ashes, and that beautiful mythical bird. You've probably seen pictures of it. There's so many, artists that have played with this symbology. And for me, it is symbolic of the magic within all of us that comes when we allow ourselves to have that unified centeredness in it. It comes out of embodiment. And I think it's a really important symbol nowadays because with all the things going on in the world and all of the distractions, um, so many of us aren't fully embodied. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
And as we've been talking about, it is a practice. And with this framework of these different phases, you can recognize where you are and then have a clue or a hint about, okay, what needs to happen next? How can I allow myself to feel unified and certain in my beingness? Now, not the previous, but a few episodes ago, we talked about certainty, right? And it's certainty in your thoughts and in your feelings, but even more so, it is this certainty of like who you are. And that's what happens in this Rubedo. It's the reddening. It's like the life force. It's the human realizing and fulfilling itself with the divine.
Yes.
Yeah. And there is symbology again, or metaphor again, about the great marriage, which can relate to the marriage with human and divine, a marriage of masculine and feminine energies within us,
Yes.
which has nothing to do with gender, by the way. It's just a way of talking about energy. And active and receptive energy. I mean, there's so many ways you can yin and yang, right? There's so many ways that you can talk about this. And, you know, it's all the parts and pieces of oneself that have gotten scattered or have gotten forgotten, coming together. So as we said, like, you can take this framework, and we have a semblance of this happening in any cycle, like in a relationship or in a career or in a creative process, in building our own levels of confidence, whatever it is. And of course, then there is the great work of our entire life.
Yes. Yes. You know, one thing I like about this system, is that the first step is like what I talk about of like death, dying, letting go. The first step. And the second step is noticing the light, the pure, sacred beauty, light, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that is, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm enlightened. I saw the light. It's like, no, you saw, you had a little vacation into the light. You had a little, you saw the light on television. It's like, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. There's a whole lot of the third thing, integration, to take out. It's like one thing to be just like, oh, there's light everywhere as a theory or having a speck of it. It's just like, can I realize it, make it real into every part of the being?
Yeah.
Every part of the experience of us humans. It's so all-encompassing and intense.
It's intense.
As it talks about. And then there's what I talk about is like the resurrection or the born again thing. It's that phoenix rising. And so when you talk about it, it's just like, well, there's death and resurrection, and all the focus goes on the death because it's hard, and letting go is hard, and being with what is, it's hard. It's hard, but like then the rising is a thing too. Like, and what happens in the middle. And I really like this system because it's pulling out some of those pieces and being like, it's not just death and resurrection. It's not just born again. It's, oh my goodness, there's a whole lot going on in
Well,
between.
yeah, and acknowledging the reality of actually what's going on, right? It's not, I mean, I'm not going to say when sometimes you wake up and you're just like, oh, I get it, right? I'm like, and you can
Yes.
go out. That does happen.
Yeah.
It's, it doesn't have to be always excruciating or this
No,
big deal.
no.
But to your point, I think, and this is part of the reason I want to talk about it, because a lot of healers say we're going to alchemize, or I do alchemy, and it may not be just like that. It can be,
Yeah.
but let's be real also.
Right. Right. Well, as psychic mystic healers that we are,
Mhm.
there's two things going on. You're making the energetic shift, which happens fast, energy,
Mhm.
fast.
Yeah, fast.
But then birthing that into our body and our life in a world, it can happen fast or it can happen glacially,
Mhm.
and it's okay. And I just want to say, like, there's some fear for people about this. It's like there's so many times I'm working with somebody and they're like, I don't want to make this change because it'll affect this person, it'll ruin this relationship, my job, whatever. I'm like, no, no, no. We're just making an energy change here. No one knows.
Yeah.
We're just making the energy change. And then when you're ready, you and your body and your life, and you want to explicate that freedom that you found within into your world, you can.
Yes.
Right. So, like, really disambiguating these two things is very helpful because at least we can get freedom here.
I love that. Yeah.
We can get freedom here. And
Yeah.
then, oh, I might not want to show it because my husband or because my job or because my parent, like whatever. Fine. But
Mhm.
then you just play along, but you know you're playing
Yes.
along. And then one
Yeah.
day you're just like, I'm done with this. And like things change.
And things change. Yeah.
So like really, I really like the way this system is talking about this. It's not just Phoenix becomes ashes and it rises. There's a lot of stuff going on in the middle.
Yeah. And ultimately, like in the embodiment then, and in honoring our connection with the divine and the expanded consciousness that comes from that, the expanded heart that comes from that, it can be extraordinary. And all it is actually allowing the full spectrum of your beingness, of the capabilities that you have as a human, to see the light, if you will.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So we are coming to a close, but
Okay.
do you have, like, we're both very excited about this. Like, this is really both just the cycles and the soul revolution, and very exciting, but mystic revolution, but also this Phoenix rising thing is the bomb. So
Yeah, I haven't talked too much about that. So, right.
so do you want to just share, like, for yourself, like,
force.
what is it like, Susana?
Well, right. Again, we all have periods of Phoenix rising, but I think for me, most recently, it is just freedom. Freedom, really the ability to not get hooked or to quickly unhook, to allow all that is as it is to be. And we'll talk more about that because I know my saying that probably makes people a little funny too. Might bring up some stuff for some people. I feel like it is that place where you are full on you. I talk about a lot this with my own clients. Like,
Yes.
who might you be if you really let yourself be full on you?
Yes.
And so many of the things that I used to care about or think were important don't matter anymore.
Yeah. Looking a certain way, impressing certain people, that kind of thing.
Well, of course that. And just my own inner requirements, my own perfect pictures, the things that I used to, well, my own things about making people wrong. And of course, this has been an evolution. I'll just say that the most recent experience of this is just feeling solid.
Yes.
Solid, and knowing that I have that energy mastery is something that I have. Of course, I'm constantly fine-tuning and learning more, but that's kind of the way that I operate in the world.
Yes.
So
Beautiful. We're going to do a quick meditation. So let's just tune in and notice again your body and how supported you are. And let's let go, like sand in our hands, just let go of all the ideas that have been flowing by. Accept what you experienced in your own soul. Accept what validated your own truth. What did you hear? What did you see? What did you experience in this conversation that's yours? And keep that. And everything else, just let go like sand in your hands. And my energy and my pictures and beliefs are coming back to me. And Susanna's energy and her beliefs and pictures are coming back to her. And you just keep your truth and let your truth be strengthened by this conversation. Even if you're just like, that's not true for me. Great, own that. Or that's so true for me. Great, own that. Great. And let's notice the light within and let it unveil and shine a little more. Feel free to keep meditating as long as you want, and we are going to say goodbye. Thanks so much for playing.
bye.
And that concludes this portion of Mystic Revolution. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to get notified of new content. And don't forget to like and share. Join the Mystic Revolution. Click on the link in the description to get more information or visit themysticrevolution.com. Another creative art production by Retro Earth Studio.
This series is really for you if you have mystic sensibilities or interests, or if you've been practicing forever. This is a place for all of us to join together